And welcome back to another episode of the Baseline Bums podcast. It's your host, Rob, a.k.a. B-Ball Archives, and once again, I got the bums in the house. AJ, James, thanks for joining me this evening. We got some Spurs stuff to talk about, some good, mostly bad, but hey, we're going to talk about it anyway. We got to talk about it. That's why we're here.
Yeah, I mean, this is going to be a rough one, guys. Like, I think we can all kind of equally agree that we don't want to talk about what we need to talk about, but I mean, the facts are the facts, and what we saw on the court was not ideal for anyone. So, we just got to tell it how it is, good, bad, or ugly, but, there's some silver lining we'll get to, but, James, what do you think?
I think, maybe we just need a little catharsis, a little release here, a little therapy session, because the past two games, boy, my anxiety is high.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more, and it's really frustrating. I mean, I know the Grizzlies are a good team, so if we're going to lose to them, it really does make sense because, hey, that's a pretty solid squad. But whenever I see an outing like last night where we just completely collapse again in the third quarter, lose a game by 28 to a Grizzlies team that doesn't even have Ja Morant, it really is a frustrating loss. And when you look at the various elements and why we lost the game, Desmond Bane looked like fucking John Stockton last night with his career high in assist. He's not a good playmaker, and he was finding wide open people right in rhythm. We can't be allowing that. There was, multiple frustrations last night.
Well, it's not even the first time that's happened. I remember going in person last year to multiple games against the Grizzlies. Ja didn't play last year, and Desmond Bane torched the Spurs from the point guard position, and that happened last year. So to see that happen again was discouraging. And then, you can say the Grizzlies, they're the third best team in the West, and probably so. But that is it's not a good matchup for the Spurs. When you look at this, just the roster construction, we acknowledged last week on how the Spurs front court situation is not very good. The Grizzlies, just off the bench alone, bring out Brandon Clark, Santi Aldama, and Jay Huff. Those three big guys are better than anybody that's not named Wemby on the Spurs. That's
right.
In the front court.
Santi Aldama literally had career high in points last night.
Yeah,
literally cooked.
This week we made him look like an all NBA level player. And I mean, I know he's not, but going back to last week again, that's the kind of player that would look good in silver and black.
That's very true.
Yeah, he does a little bit of everything.
I think the biggest frustration for me is that just in back-to-back games, Wemby did not go to the free throw line.
Yeah.
Like, just didn't. It reminds me of back in the day when Shaq was playing, and every time Shaq got the ball, he got fouled. It's just a matter of how much the refs wanted to call it that night. And I feel that Wemby is in that same realm where he's going to get fouled every time he takes it to the rack. It's just a matter of how many times they want to blow the whistle. So I think he's just not being aggressive enough. And it's fun to watch him shoot threes, but dude, like, you're a 90% free throw shooter. Like, you have to shoot free throws. I mean,
17 threes and no free throws over the last two games. That's inexcusable, really. I mean,
it is. But you know what? I'm actually going to come to Wembanyama's defense a little bit. Last night, he shot 19 shots. Only 7 of them were threes. He had as many shots inside of the paint as he did from beyond the arc. So to me, that's a little bit of a step in the right direction. I just think he needed to hit some of those shots inside the paint. He needs to be higher percentage from inside 6 feet. And I don't think that they were calling some of those tic-tac fouls when it was coming to Wembanyama last night. So I think he should have been at the line a couple of times.
And you're going to have games, you're going to have stretches like that. Like, I don't want to overreact and pretend it's the end of the world or anything like that. And he did pick it up in the second half. You look at his ending stat line, I think it was 19 and 12. So, 8 for 19, not a great field goal percentage, but not a terrible one. But it's just everything else around him. This team goes as he goes. So,
Right.
I mean, we kind of saw just a very crazy situation happen here in the past, probably like week, 2 weeks, and that's Devin Vassell, and he's still slumping real hard. I mean, it was rough to watch him last night. I know that his ending stats were like not super terrible, but I know his plus minus was minus 22. So, he just looks a little lost, and it makes me wonder, what we're doing right now, because the only reason Stephen Castle has been playing well is because he's been getting minutes, but that's because we've had injuries. Whenever we have Sohan or Devin Vassell, he now goes back to the bench and gets 15 minutes a game. So what that tells me, and guys, correct me if I'm wrong, that maybe they're the problem. Maybe Devin, maybe Jeremy, maybe we just can't have all these guys at the same time, and maybe it's time to look to move one.
Well, I don't think you're entirely wrong, and I think Devin Vassell, it's time to accept he is a tertiary piece. He is not a secondary piece. There's nothing wrong with that, but it needs to be addressed in the sense of roster construction. And so, maybe a guy like Steph Castle, who to this point hasn't shown great chops as a point guard, winds up making a guy like Devin Vassell expendable because they're about the same size. They don't have exactly the same skill set, but
Got the same hair.
a little bit scarily so.
Yeah.
But there's just something missing with Devin Vassell and his impact. Because like you said, AJ, the counting stats the past 3 games have been there. And the Lakers game, the impact was there. But the Grizzlies game, it's like, okay, I think he was 21.7 for 13 both nights, if I'm not mistaken.
Yep.
And it's just like, I don't feel those. It's a quiet 21 points.
It's how Tim Duncan used to get his points. It's like, oh, he had 22. Wow, I didn't know that. But also, like, in spurts, Devin Vassell has, like, he'll make a three-pointer, but then give up a layup on the defensive end and then have a turnover. Like, it's like this crazy vortex of interesting plays that Devin Vassell is doing. And then, it really ends into the Grizzlies coming back both nights. And I think a lot of it has to do with those sequences that, unfortunately, he was the focal point on those.
Right. And I got to talk about those kind of sequences because all of those downfalls the last 2 games have happened in the third quarter. We have had beyond monumental third quarter meltdowns, and I don't know what's happening because statistically when you look at it, the third quarter is our highest scoring quarter on the season. So I don't know what's flipping, and now all of a sudden after halftime we start shitting the bed. But right after we came back and won 3 games ago in LA or against LA, I was like, man, I don't know what Mitch Johnson said at halftime, but he has these guys playing out of control. And it seems to be like he said the exact opposite these last games, and all of a sudden we've just lost our minds going into the third quarter.
Well, and last night was so it felt so much better until all of a sudden the last 2.5 minutes of the third quarter, and then it didn't. That 16-0 run happened like that.
It was 3 minutes. It literally took 3 minutes for that 16-0 run to happen.
And that felt like last year because it was, last year was a bunch of close game, and then all of a sudden an 11-0 run in the fourth quarter would decide it. And that was a trip back in time, and it's disappointing because you thought we were past that. And my criticism of Mitch Johnson is I hear you in the press conference say, you're worried about the amount of timeouts that you have. In that situation, man, I don't think it matters. You got to do something to halt the momentum of this game.
Yep.
And I think a lot of side eyes do at Mitch Johnson, not just for that, some of the game management things, but the rotations. Why are we running an 8-9 man rotation in the middle of January? Can someone answer me?
Great question. That's a great question.
Like, did we hire Tom Thibodeau and I missed it? Like,
Yeah, I mean, why aren't we utilizing some of these guys on the bench to help out a little bit more to supplement what we're doing? Yeah, I mean, we could be running a deeper rotation. Yeah, I couldn't agree more.
So I guess my question to you guys is, I mean, is this the ceiling of the Spurs this year? Like, is this kind of what it is, and is like we just can expect maybe like one win every 3 games from now moving forward? I mean, it just seems that we can't get over that hump this year, and these past few weeks have been really, oh man, just kind of a kick in the balls, really.
Yeah, I mean, I mean to answer your question, is this as good as the Spurs are going to be this year? I don't think. I think we are better than what we've been the last couple of games. I'm not going to chalk it up and say that, this is as good as we're going to be. But at the same time, what we're putting out on the court isn't full effort, and especially on the defensive end. When we see
Yeah.
a Grizzlies team go out and shoot 43% from beyond the arc as a team, over 56% as a team, that is absolutely trash. And just to add to our criticism of Devin Vassell, I saw him multiple possessions get beat off the dribble by Luke Kennard, and he was absolutely roasted. And I'm like, hey, if you're not able to stay with a guy that is known to just be a catch and shoot kind of guy, if that guy is beating you off the dribble, then we really need to reconsider, are you even a 3-and-D guy, or are you just a volume scorer now?
Yeah. Well, and oh my God, if Keldon Johnson leaves Luke Kennard open again beyond the arc, I'm going to have an aneurysm.
Yes.
Like, I just feel like the last 2 games, not to change the subject entirely from Devin Vassell, but we have seen the whole Keldon Johnson experience, like 360, the good and the bad. And it's mind numbing, y'all.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think that's why he is that role. He is playing from the bench. So it's like, hey, sometimes you need that bench presence. Sometimes you don't. Sometimes the starters are bringing it so much. And I think that's why he is in that role, because you can't fully trust his production night in, night out.
Yeah.
It's just his attention to detail is what's frustrating, because he'll go down and he'll hit a 3, or he'll make a drive and get a layup or something like that. And then he just completely checks out on the defensive end of the floor. It reminds me a little bit of like prime Russell Westbrook.
Yeah.
In that sense, that like, sometimes you'd look at Russ on the defensive end and his man would be on the complete opposite end of the floor. She's like, what are you doing?
I don't know. I do think some of the tanking has gotten to this team, especially our veterans like Keldon and like Devin. Like, I mean, we lost a few games. Who cares? You move on. And I feel that the body language and the press conferences after are now getting like, we tried hard. We went out there, gave it our all. And it's like, it's just getting frustrating as a fan. But I will say, watching Steph Castle play has been the silver lining, nice little diamond in the rough. That's for sure.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, I agree. There was moments last night where, he looked really good, and he was, kind of just building off of what he did the previous game. And we know that was a 26-point outing, his career high. And then he started the next game, started out 6 for 7, really, really hot and playing well. Aggressive.
Took over the first quarter of that game.
Yep.
And I screenshotted this tweet from Ryan Russillo last night. He said, Castle is so impressive. He can't even shoot yet. And I'd never understood the point guard stuff. And it's, like I've made points earlier and, a couple of weeks back about how he needs those guardrails. But he just overpowers guys, and he's only 20 years old. He plays off of athleticism and physicality with no refinement yet. And like AJ said, that's a silver lining right there.
You know who he reminds me of, and this was something that I saw when we were playing the Lakers. If there is a smaller point guard on Castle, he will back him down. He plays great defense. He kind of reminds me of Gary Payton, and I was really excited whenever I kind of like put those together, because I was like, if this guy can start playing out of the post as a point guard, I mean, good luck stopping him, and good luck trying to stop that offense. especially if we have Wimby hitting shots or cutting to the lane, doing alley-oops. I mean, if we can find a way to use Steph Castle in the post and have him mismatch on mismatch and or like a Gary Payton, like a Chauncey Billups, those types of guys, man, sky's the limit for that dude.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. I think he needs to improve his free throw shooting just a little bit if he's going to be able to, if he's going to be going to the line and putting himself in positions to get fouled a lot. I would love to see him be an 85, 90% free throw shooter.
That'd be huge.
And just to really capitalize on a lot of that. But yeah, I think that he's putting himself in positions to do that. He's built himself a good foundation to be that player in the future.
Shot selection too, but my biggest thing with rookies, I never really worry about field goal percentage that much with rookies, unless it's like alarming, like below 30%. And he hasn't been at that point. So I think once he just learns how to fit in his own skin in the NBA.
Yeah, the only time I really look at field goal percentage if you're a rookie is if you played 4 years in college. If you're already a guy that's, 22, 23 years
like
old.
Like Dalton Connect.
Right, exactly. Someone like that who, you've shot enough at and played against enough future professional players and you've matured enough physically to where I do feel like there is a difference between the basketball player that's 18, 19, and then 20, 21, 22.
Yeah, no, that's a good point. And one thing that I think these past couple of games have opened my eyes to is that we kind of have short memories. We don't really remember 2-3 years ago, I think, very well. I was doing a little hashtag research today.
Nice.
And went back to 22-23. Through 40 games, the Thunder were 18-22. And they finished 40-42 that year, 10th in the West. If you look at the Rockets last year, they were, I believe, about the same, maybe like 19-21, 19-22, somewhere in there. And they got as low as 9 games below 500 before finishing hot and finishing 500. I think Spurs fans, including us, need to remember that we are on pace. We are on track. The calculus might be a little different because of how loaded this draft is. But just remembering back a couple of years, yeah, these past couple of games have been tough. But we are in a good place.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Even if we're losing to teams like the Grizzlies, I view that as a completely justified loss. I don't like how we lost, but ending up with an L on the score sheet, it doesn't matter either way. But yeah, I agree. We can see the light at the end of the tunnel. We know who we're building our team around. I would say the majority of the NBA doesn't know that information. They don't know who their 10-year plan really is based around. And we can say that we have the most potent person on offense and defense to build around. So that's refreshing. I think that as Spurs fans, we are pretty relaxed right now. We are the most relaxed sub 500 team out there.
Now, that's the good side. The bad side of my other hashtag research was back in 21-22 when the Spurs were a play-in team, even though it feels like a long time ago, it wasn't. It was Devin Vassell's second year in the league. He was 12.5 a game. Then the subsequent 2 years, he jumped up to 18.5 and 19.5 a game on horrible teams. I think we have to wrestle with the question, is Devin Vassell a bad team merchant in terms of his stats? Is he a piece on a good Spurs team going forward?
I think that goes back to kind of what I was saying earlier is his defense present? We need his defense because Stephon Castle already looks like a more ready, a more physical, a more, I guess, a better on-point, on-ball defender than he does right now. And and that shouldn't be the case because we should be seeing Devin Vassell reading passing lanes better, knowing how to get physical in certain moments, and we should see him being effective more than a rookie like Castle. And to kind of see him taking a back seat, it leads me to believe that I think he wants a more offensive based role on this team, and maybe he's kind of willing to dish off those defensive perimeter responsibilities off to a guy like Castle. And if he's willing to do that and doesn't feel like he needs to put that in, then maybe he'd be better off elsewhere.
I guess the question I'm getting at is he this generation's George Hill for the Spurs? We all love Devin Vassell like we all love George Hill, but is there a trade out there? I don't know. We don't have to get into the specifics, but if you can get a 2 for a 3, you pull that trigger, and is he that guy?
Yeah.
I mean, one of the things that I was very sad about yesterday before the game was watching the Boston Celtics and watching Derek White play, and you're just like, God, it's the one that got away. Because if we had someone like Derek White on this team right now, I think it would just be so much better and so much easier for us to win those close games or not have those huge blowouts. So, I miss that guy. I miss that guy a lot. I think he's a great player. I love his game, and I think he would really benefit. But I get it; he's flourishing in Boston, so can't be mad.
I agree with you wholeheartedly. It's just, it's kind of a necessary evil. We have Wemby.
Yeah, we got Wemby because of it. Yeah, we had to do it.
Yeah. Oh, of course. It needed to be done without a doubt. But yeah, it's tough because he's one of the best rim protectors or as a guard. He is probably the best rim protector as a guard. And when you put that into the fact that, he's also probably a top 5 perimeter defender as well, that kind of guy helps your team immediately. And yeah, like you were saying, AJ, he was beloved before when he was in San Antonio, and to see him blossom, even though he's on a team that is having success elsewhere, halfway across the country, it's still sweet to see him get his.
Yeah,
maybe there can be a reunion with him and Patty Mills. We can ship out some of these players.
Yeah,
that'd be fun. Bring them all back.
Is Patty still in the league?
So good, Josh Primo. Why not?
Is Patty down in Miami?
No, he's at Utah.
I was going to say he's in Utah. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, we were talking earlier in the season. It was weird seeing him in a Jazz uniform.
He's back to waving towels though.
Yeah, he's getting up there. He's got to be 35 now. So
he's up there.
If he's getting PT, more power to him. I mean, we saw the Jazz have one of the more embarrassing moments in the league this season, this past week. Did y'all see that?
What happened?
You'll have to be more specific as to what you're referring to.
Colin Sexton and Isaiah Collier yelling at each other and getting an 8-second call.
Yeah,
that was pretty rough. Almost as rough as you like Legos.
Yeah, that's dude. That comment was disrespectful.
I was like, I know he's not talking about Wemby,
but as also a fellow adult who likes Legos, I mean,
yeah, who doesn't like Legos?
Yeah, bro, I got Legos right behind me. What are you talking about? Like this?
I miss Lego basketball. The little guys, you bend them backwards and they fling the ball.
Yeah. Yeah, that's how you get active with your Legos. That's just smart right there.
Patty Mills is 36, and he actually passed 1,000 games like 2 weeks ago.
Oh, good for him.
Shout out to him.
Yeah, he's had a long career, and I feel like the reason he's still on an NBA roster right now is because
his wife.
Well, I mean, not only that, but what I'm saying is, if all of the other guards they had went down, you could throw Patty Mills out there and he would go get you buckets, and he would be smart and he would be efficient and all those things you'd want in a veteran point guard. And yeah, it's tough to argue with that.
He's the kind of guy I wouldn't be surprised to see finish elsewhere this season if maybe a competitor wants to bring him in on the cheap in the buyout market. Just because, he can come in and hit a 3, and if you're not going to play him, he can still be a positive force in the locker room who's a champion.
Professional towel waiver.
Right. Yeah.
We love Patty Mills.
Yeah, oh yeah, we love Patty Mills, and that's why in college, whenever he would randomly get in the game and he was barely getting minutes, and he would hit a three, we would go get Patty Mills from
Yeah, that was
Whataburger,
Well,
automatic.
and
automatic.
that makes me think of something interesting because we talk a lot about potential trades for the Spurs, but the Spurs have never really been a huge in-season trade team, even when they were in position to be buyers. But what
Yeah.
they did used to do was be active on the buyout market. Do you think that there could be anybody out there in the buyout market that could help the Spurs down the stretch?
That's a good question.
Depends on what happened, on who it is. I mean, if we're talking about someone that is like a Patty Mills on a kind of a shit team, just wanting to have one last hurrah, maybe. But who's that person, and how would they fit?
Yeah, I just don't really view us as a team that's wanting to make a big financial move. I don't really view us as wanting to put all our chips in. I think that we're really slow cooking this thing. I mean, we were talking about brisket last episode, and I still feel like that's the speed at which we're cooking this team.
Well, and that's why I say buyout market rather than trade, because I think when you talk about in-season trades, you talk about paying a premium that you might not pay in the off season.
Right.
And so it might be a little more reasonable to scan the buyout market. Now, I didn't really have anybody specific in mind, but
Then why'd you bring it up?
well, it's just something the Spurs have done in the past, and so
That's true. That's
you know,
true.
you look to the past for hints of the future sometimes, and well,
Like when we signed Tracy McGrady, and I was like, we're definitely winning a championship now. Then fucking Ray Allen hit that 3-pointer, and that ruined his dreams.
Well, I mean, I think we're all hoping that we bring in some kind of backup big in the off season. I mean, I don't really care exactly who it is. I think that it could be a wide variety of options. I even think random backup bigs may excite me just to kind of shake things up and maybe
Anybody,
right.
anybody.
they need
What's
multiple people,
Roshan
too.
Nastarovich doing right now? Like, we need somebody.
I mean, I don't know about that, but I was thinking more like Valanciunas, guys along those lines, and I saw Nurkic was potentially unhappy about the situation in Phoenix now, so I was like, well, hey, that may be a situation where we can snag a potential backup big on the cheap, and I wouldn't hate that.
The one name that was out there in the trade market, Phoenix beat them to the punch, and it makes sense because Phoenix is more desperate. Nick Richards was a good get for them, and 3 second-round picks. The Spurs have that. Rob, you mentioned a couple of weeks ago, young, hungry, chip on the shoulder, kind of big. That's a good gamble for the Suns to make, I think.
Yeah,
We'll get somebody, but it's a smoker. It's not a microwave, but God, we're so close. We're like, we see these flashes, and these flashes are so awesome. You're going, this team can be so special. This team can be so special, but we just got to get the right
special yet.
we just got to get the right pieces. Once we get the right Legos and they put together in the right form, then we can build this organization to the top.
is that you saying we need to go after Miles Turner?
Maybe. If we got that would. Hey, I am down with Miles Turner.
Good luck getting near the rim with Miles Turner and Wemby on the same team.
Honestly, Indiana is never going to give up Miles Turner.
If he's still there,
right. I mean, I would say he is like a really, really good sort of prototypical modern day center when you're talking about, can shoot, can protect the rim, is smart, can help move the ball. And, I just like everything he does, but I don't think he does anything particularly amazing, but he just does so many things just really, really well.
So
But yeah, I would love him.
one thing that came out also was Gafford's now available for trades for the Mavs. So I wonder if that's worth the phone call, because I don't know what his situation is. It kind of came out of the blue. I don't know if he's been disgruntled or anything, but I think last year he did a great job to get him to the finals. But
I like that kind of player.
that
Springy.
wouldn't suck. But he has an attitude.
I mean,
sometimes attitude's good.
I'm okay
agree.
with it. You need a little bit of crazy, and
Yeah, we're trying to play ball, not date our daughters. So yeah,
exactly.
crazy works.
Exactly. I think there's something to be said in the Spurs specific situation. Got caught up in the air between words there. For shaking it up for the sake of shaking it up. Zach Collins, the vibes are at an all-time low. He's not playing. Charles Bassey, serviceable at best. I just think that change for the sake of change might be the best thing for the Spurs right now.
It wouldn't
Yeah.
suck. But I did like Mamu in a headband yesterday, so I think we should get more Mamu headband moments.
Well, I'm okay with having Mamu and Bassie, but I just think we need that second big right behind Wemby,
Yep.
and then Bassie and Mamu that's the third and fourth option. I'm okay with them being third and fourth option, but our
For this
second
year.
option can't be Zach. Right. For the next maybe year or two, because we got to be realistic. We're not a team that just goes and gets all of our pieces all at once. We're gonna build. We're gonna get this brick this season. The next season we're gonna get another brick, and then 3 or 4 years,
We have a
we're gonna
full
have a
Legos.
championship team.
Full
Yeah.
Lego set.
And who knows how the rest of the season is going to shake out around them. I know the Bulls are struggling now, but there was a second about a week or so ago where it looked like the Spurs might wind up with picks 10, 11, and 12. Or maybe 11, 12, and 13 all right in a row. And in a draft like this, that's
So it wouldn't suck.
significant capital one way or another.
No way, the Spurs get lucky in the lottery. That never really happens, right?
How many
Yeah.
times can lightning strike?
The NBA scripted.
At least 3.
Right. Yeah.
Well,
I mean, I love it.
what I like, I'm glad the NBA thought of this and they had the Spurs fly to Miami before flying to Paris, because at least they can have like a little stop, a little break, and then that flight from Miami to Paris is probably 8 hours, give or take, rather than it being 11, 12. So we got 2 games in France this week. Oh.
Yeah.
And I still don't know French, so I don't know how we're going to get these clips over there, but we'll figure it out. So, two games versus the Pacers in France. How you guys feeling about that?
I mean, I'm feeling good. I mean, I think whenever I see Wemby make statements like "it's all I can think about," I think he really, really wants to show out in front of his hometown. His fans. A lot of everyone he grew up with, everyone he's known is going to be there at those games, and just to be in an environment when you're hearing people speak French and he's going and eating at his restaurants that he loves, it's like just being in that kind of environment, I feel like it's going to relax him, and we're going to see some really, really amazing basketball from Wemby.
Yeah, it'll be a decidedly pro Spurs crowd, or at least it should, because with all the history the Spurs have in France. So I think it's going to be fun. And just on a personal note, after last night, 8:30 tip-off, games at 11-1 sounds so good, because your boy struggles with late games at this point.
Fuck a West Coast game.
Yeah, West Coast games are the worst, dog.
When the Spurs get back to regular playoff appearances and they have to go west, and as the playoffs progress, oh boy, I'm not in college anymore. I can't.
No.
Yeah.
It's tough. It's tough.
No,
Yeah, I mean, I will stay up at 12:30 to watch a game against Sacramento, but do I want to? Not ideally.
I mean, I have a reason to coming up, so I mean, I'll be
point.
awake. But I've seen several memes this week about the torture of passing your fandom to your kids, and so I feel like I'm about to do that right now.
hardcore, very very much so, actually. Well,
That's okay though.
I'm stoked about the French game. What's crazy is that whenever we got the first pick, whenever we were going through that process of like, we're going to get Wemby, NBA TV was showing all of his games. And it's crazy that he was playing professionally in France, but playing in a gym that didn't have AC. Because, like, in France, like, that's just not a thing. They just don't do AC sometimes. So I'm curious. I'm pretty sure this arena will have AC, but, you know, it's kind of crazy to come full circle with this Wemby thing. And, I mean,
Now we know.
I think we should sweep.
We know why they didn't send LeBron over there.
Right. Right. Well, I mean, I would like to say that, you know, the Pacers aren't looking good right now, but they've won 8 of their last 10 games, and they're sitting at 5th in the East right now. The Pacers aren't
20 and 20?
They're 23. They're 23 and 19 right now,
Yeah.
so they're not looking too bad. But I wish that they were stumbling a little bit, but you know, I think given the presence of Spurs fans in Paris, I think, you know, that's going to be enough to progress us forward.
Also, this is the NBA. Let's be real. You don't know how players are going to respond after a couple of nights out in Paris.
Also, that flight's no joke, man.
No, it's not. It's not, especially if you're not used to it.
But I guess they are
imagine
flying
anything
like
is.
private and first class, and said, never mind.
Oh
That flight's easy as shit.
Bro, you probably don't even realize you're on a plane. Just like people bringing you all kinds of food, you can just lay down and take naps on like what are essentially beds. It's like, dude, what are you talking about? That's a chill experience.
It would be dope if they had like a shower in there, like a Fly Emirates plane or something.
Nah, the Spurs are all lovable dorks, so they'll be having more They'll be all having more LAN parties like they did in '99 when they won the title coming back from MSG.
Dude, what if Wemby like shows up on the plane and has like this big ass Death Star like Lego set, and he goes, "Guys, I have an idea for this trip."
And then they hit some turbulence, and then it just all falls and breaks, and it's like, oh shit, we lost it.
He's like, "What the fuck is this?"
But yeah, I mean, I'm hoping that we get a couple of wins in Paris. I think that would be nice to just kind of establish ourselves in Europe as you know, hey, we're whenever we're over here, this is kind of Spurs territory. We kind of have a home field advantage.
I would honestly like to get a W tomorrow. I think you're playing
It's very possible.
a Miami team that has all sorts of turmoil going on right now. I think you should look to go in there and make it worse.
If you're Jimmy Butler and you want to like, you know, show up but like not make it look like you're pissed off, like, do you shoot a bunch of shots or do you pass on a bunch of shots? Because that's going to determine how the game goes tomorrow.
Well, see, Jimmy Butler is such a smart player that he could actually make it look like he's trying and still be doing things that are smart. And so, like, he could be passing it to people that when they're not in their spots, and it's like, well, you can't say Jimmy's not passing the ball, but it's like, you know, technically he's not, you know, distributing the way you'd want him to. But I look at, you know, his game last night. He was like 18, 3 and 2, and it's like, you know, that's not normally what you'd see from Jimmy. It's a pretty lackluster performance, but you know, maybe he's just going to dish out a lot of performances like that where it's like he's playing good enough to where you can't really get mad at him, but he's not going to do a lot to just kind of win you games, go above and beyond.
I
down
can't
for
believe
that.
he's even playing, to be quite honest with you. The way that organization is run and the way he operates when this kind of thing happens, I can't believe they let him back on the court.
Well, I mean, I think you kind of need him to play because you need him to present some kind of value. I think you need him to be wanted by other people, and if you're presenting him as an asset that is so uncontrollable that we can't even play this guy, it's like, then how are you going to get him off your books, or how are you going to get anything in return for him?
I think there was a line in that Ramona Shelburne story yesterday that said, Jimmy's just getting started. And if that's the case, this is going to be fun to watch.
Yep.
Yeah.
As a non-Heat fan, I mean, geez.
Do you foresee it blowing up in Jimmy's face?
Can Kind of. I think he'll ultimately get his way, but I just don't think that he's going to go to the situation that he wants to go. He'll get his way in terms of getting out of Miami, but this isn't 2018 anymore. Jimmy Butler's 35 years old. He doesn't, in that sense, he doesn't have the leverage, and in the sense that he can make it nasty, the Heat don't really have the leverage. So I think it's just going to be a stalemate for a while.
Do you think he ends up with the Suns though?
No.
I don't think so. either.
No,
Bradley-
I think too many things have to align for the Suns deal to happen, and one of the things I'm pretty sure, James, you were about to mention is the Bradley Beal no trade clause.
Just the contract in general. There's the huge amount of money, and then there's the no trade clause. It's just for someone who's seen better days, it's a lot.
Yeah.
Womp womp.
Yep. That's a very interesting situation, especially when Jimmy Butler is saying weird, ominous things like the truth will come out and just wait and see. And it's like, dude, that's like some conspiracy theory, tinfoil hat kind of shit.
I just been watching the X-Files.
Well, he's
Right.
just a bit of a different cat. I'm pretty sure his name isn't James. His legal name is Jimmy. And, between the price gouging coffee in the bubble and his taste in music and what he wears, he's just a different cat. And, it makes situations like these tough to predict. So
Right. Because what are his motivations? It's like,
and the Heat are not the Timberwolves. This is a proud organization run by a very proud-willed person.
wait, hold on, James. Are you saying the Timberwolves aren't a proud organization?
I'm saying that if you ever have anybody stand on the scorer's table after making the play-in and throw their shirt into the crowd,
No, Pat Bev.
That's funny. You guys mentioned all the signs of someone who enjoys the booger sugar in Jimmy Butler. I'm not saying he's doing it, but
he's in Miami.
he just has a lot of those qualities of the outlandish things and the craziness and the odd taste in weird things. Could be just an eclectic guy, or
If you're going to get into that kind of thing, he's in the right place.
Yeah. I mean, he could be into some weird stuff. I'm not 100% sure. I don't know if I want to speculate on it, but I mean, it seems like AJ, do you have any evidence to back up your claim?
We need some
Sources.
reckless speculation right here.
sources.
Some classic trust
I
me,
have
bro.
sources.
Time to throw away all journalistic integrity.
Throw away what?
All-
We don't have that here.
No,
It's
but
true. None of us went to J school. We all went to Tech, not Syracuse.
Right. Straight up facts.
But I mean, since we're here, I think there's not much more to talk about NBA wise. Who we yam on, guys? Who we dunking on? Berto.
Yeah. Honestly, there was so many options to dunk on.
There's been a lot of options lately.
Honestly, I have to give a couple of honorable mentions real quick. I could have dunked on the U.S. government for shutting down TikTok. I could easily make that dunk. TBD. But even for bringing that shit into the conversation, I could dunk on them. I could easily dunk on Def Jam Records for giving LaMelo Ball a deal. or
LiAngelo's
sorry,
going to
sorry,
the halftime
LiAngelo.
of this game tonight.
Right. And to me that is disgusting. I can't believe that $13 million record deal actually happened. That is gross. But I honestly think I'm going to do a self dunk. I'm dunking on myself.
Oh no! What'd you do,
Because-
Rob?
Because I had no idea that we had so many Spurs fans in China. Whenever we posted our clips on the Red Note app, we got such an overwhelmingly positive response. We had a lot of Spurs fans just excited to show their fandom, talking about, hey, I've been a fan for 15, 20, 25 years, wanting to show me basketball cards and jerseys they had. And they were just really, really hungry for Spurs media and just wanting that community to be larger where they were. And so to see that kind of community that I didn't even truly know about. I knew basketball was really, really big in China, but I didn't know that the love for the Spurs was really there. So self dunk, I didn't know that to the fullest extent. So it's kind of a positive dunk, but still, I didn't know that shit. So dunk on me.
Ni hao, ni hao.
Nailed it. Our French and Chinese fans are going crazy right now with our awesome speaking. James, who are you dunking on?
Well, in the spirit of a self dunk, I'm gonna dunk on myself real quick first. The phrase "some assembly required" is my personal enemy right now. Whether it be painting or assembling a bookshelf or next week's project, which are a dresser and a changing table, that phrase has been quite humbling to me over the past few months. So a little bit of a self dunk there. But the main dunk, I've been saving this one for a while. College fucking basketball. We're seeing it now more that college football is over. Oh my God. Like, it's so bad. It just, in terms of a television product, terrible. In terms of the skill on the floor, abysmal. Just, I'm going to read some of the scores from top 25 games today. These are the best teams.
Yeah.
Best teams in the country.
There's one for sure I know you're going to mention.
Best teams in the country. We have 69-68, 70-68, 59-57, 64-57. Like, these are top 25 teams. The shooting is abysmal. The way the game is structured on television has been bad for years. These are prime athletes. They don't need television timeout breaks every 4 minutes. It's just the worst television product imaginable. And there are people out there that try to gas it up and say, they're trying hard, they're trying hard. No, they're not trying any harder than everyone else. Everyone's just bad. And that's what it looks like. I went to a high school game not long ago, and it was so much more entertaining than a college basketball game. So much more entertaining, and there's not even a shot clock. So college basketball, get your shit together. That's my dunk this week.
Ooh. Solid dunk. Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of colleges are still running offenses from fucking 30, 40 years ago. Get your shit together.
It's true.
What's your dunk, AJ?
All right, Rob, you can probably tune out for the next couple of minutes. This is more James and I's lane per se, but I'm dunking on AEW wrestling. I'm dunking on All Elite Wrestling because, dude,
the E is very subjective.
All elderly wrestling is what it is. We got guys who are in their 50s that are still getting prime spots on this show, and I don't understand it. They're in the main storylines. I'm talking to you, Jeff Jarrett. There's no reason you and MJF should even be talking at this point. Chris Jericho was on my Mountain Rushmore for the longest time. He's out. He's ruined his career for me. We got Christian and now Cope, whatever the fuck that is. And then we have Lashley, Shelton Benjamin, and MVP. All those guys are so old, and you sold us on young wrestlers and up and coming, and this is going to be more of an indie feel. Just seems like another shitty WWE event for me. So I'm dunking on AEW for not pushing their young stars and bringing over guys that have been washed for 10 years.
Chris, where were you on January 6th, Jericho? Do you guys remember? Do you guys remember a couple of years ago? Because they have shows on TNT when they were running promo for one of their shows that was being aired after one of the NBA playoff games, and they showed like a shirtless Chris Jericho in action, and that went viral on NBA Twitter. And people were just like, "Holy shit, he looks like my lesbian gym teacher."
Yeah, man, it's rough over there. I mean, And also, you're doing this while WWE is on Netflix and starting all these great storylines. So you guys just shit the bed. So thanks, Rob. You can come back now.
All right, I'm back in. Yeah, it sounds
That
like
wrestling is so hot right now.
right. That's some good stuff that I know a lot about. There we go. But guys, that's a good episode right there. We talked about some good Spurs stuff. We talked about some good non-Spurs stuff. Some guys we may want to see in a Spurs uniform, some Jimmy Butler nonsense. Overall, it was a good episode. I appreciate you for being here. And if you're still listening or watching this episode right now, we appreciate you. Thank you for watching. Like, comment, subscribe, share, do all of the above, do all of that fun stuff. We really, really appreciate you and all of your support. It really means the world to us. But we're going to end this episode the same way we end all of the episodes, and that is with a go.
Spurs.
A go.
French fries, escargot, and wine.
Bag it.